What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of It Came from Craigslist. Now, it's been a minute since you guys have seen an It Came from Craigslist from yours truly, Yami Noob. If it's your first time checking out one of these videos, this is the show where I jump onto the internet's favorite listing service for motorcycles, Craigslist.com, and I scour the internet for weird, unsightly, or strange motorcycle listings to have fun and chat about. Today we are looking at Cleveland, Ohio. Now, why are we looking at Cleveland, Ohio? Well, I thought that in order to reboot the It Came from Craigslist series, we had to go back to the best city I've ever looked at and see what is going on in Cleveland once again. The original Cleveland video I made about 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago, and it was really fun, even if the audio quality was a little off. We found some absolutely strange motorcycles and weird big wheel donk bikes and muscle cruisers and ratty bikes, all kinds of weird stuff happening over in Cleveland, and today we're going to look at them once again. Let's get into it. All right, guys, first up, we're starting off with the Ratty. This is a 1995 Katana 750 Cafe Racer Street Fighter. Now, I'm looking at these photos, and there's a lot to unpack here. So the Katana, for some reason, has become the absolute whipping boy when it comes to people modifying or switching up these motorcycles. I think it's because they can find Katanas for relatively cheap, and because they're four-cylinder bikes, they end up in these terrible dark places that these ratty street fighter bikes amount to. So let's take a closer look here at this bike. Luckily, we have high-quality images, so you see all the grit in it. The Katana's frame is quite bizarre, in my opinion. It has a very thin main frame right there. If you look at something like a GSX R600 or a 1000, that main frame is going to be a lot beefier for track duty. And then the subframe is this really spindly, long thing all the way to the back, so very odd. Of course, he has the heat-wrapped exhaust on there. Fresh tires, which look pretty good, that's not bad. And then a huge megaphone style exhaust. This thing is probably so loud. It's probably absolutely crazy how loud this thing is. So if you keep looking on here, you've got a couple aftermarket bips and bobs here. You've got a rusty rear brake caliper, because of course you do. A blue chain, which squid special right there, baby, blue chain. Got the little pod filter right there. An overflow from the, what is that? There's some hose that's dangling out the side that probably shouldn't be dangling out the side. So some real interesting stuff going on with this bike. That brake fluid looks like it hasn't been changed in about 7 years. It is currently rusty orange colored brake fluid, not what you want to see. It looks like we have a aftermarket tachometer speedometer situation, so that's pretty cool. Some of those cheapo domino grips or something like that. Frame looks to be somewhat intact, I don't know. A couple pod filters on the carbs here, because of course it's a carbureted Katana. Now, let's see what this guy has to say. He wants $1,400 for it, which honestly, that's not that bad. He says, I have for sale a heavily modified Katana 750. I guess you could call it a cafe racer or street fighter. Well, I don't think I'd call it either one of those. Maybe a street fighter, but not a cafe bike. The frame, swing arm, and tank have all been painted with marine-grade urethane paint using epoxy primer. Interesting. I don't know if he did that himself or if it was done that way. The front suspension is from an 06 GSX R600, and the shock is from an 02 GXR 750. So decent components on this. That's not too terrible. Got a bunch of listed parts on here, and at the end he says, it does run, but not very well. It just needs the attention of someone who knows how to synchronize 4 carburetors. This is why we tell you here on Yami Noob to never use carburetors unless you really know what you're doing and you just hate yourself for some reason. I'm a big fan of EFI, that is electronic fuel injection. I do not like carbs because syncing 4 carbs sounds like a huge pain in the dingus. So it says I also have another complete frame to go with it, no title on that. I've invested over $3,000 in this project. I've just simply lost interest. My loss is your gain, open to offers. So this guy has completely thrown in the towel. He said, I'm done working on this bike. Someone else take it, please, for the love of God. I'd highly recommend you guys to not buy projects like this because there probably are so many other problems and gremlins and headaches that you will endure that you won't have to with a newer motorcycle. And I'm going to show you guys another example on here on Craigslist Cleveland of a cheapo bike that actually would be pretty decent. So this one I'm gonna give a 3 out of 10 and we're gonna keep it moving. All right, up next we have a 1982 Honda Nighthawk 750. The Nighthawk 750 is actually a great motorcycle. It's one of the old standard kind of UJM style bike, but it's when they started making the rakes a little bit longer and it's kind of cruisery a little bit, but it's still a standard. But it is a little bit of a cruiser in of itself. So this guy's got the, I believe these are the Michelin Scorchers, which are a horrible tire, but anyways, really clean for what it is. Honestly, these bikes are not known for being garage kept or anything like that. So in looking through the photos here, it looks relatively clean. It looks like it's been taken care of. It definitely looks better than the last bike that we saw, right? It's still a 4-cylinder, still a Japanese bike, and he just wants $1,000 for it. So this guy says 1982 Honda Nighthawk 750 starts up easily with a little choke, that's a little kinky right there, has not been serviced, so it has old oil in it. Bummer. Carbs could use some cleaning probably, runs good and feels good. Old tires, just throwing it out there for cheap, and if it doesn't sell, I'll work on it and service it and get it running perfect and raise the price a little. Would make an awesome cafe racer. Now, given the geometry of this bike, I don't know if it would make a really great cafe racer. You'd have to make some serious modifications to adjust for the seat and the bars and all that. You have to probably raise the subframe to get that hunched over cafe style that people do like, but I think for a little standard UJM like this is a pretty good buy. If you want a project bike and something to just tinker with that is already kind of clean, I would recommend looking for something more like this. An older bike that is a simpler bike that you can get into and have fun and play with while you have your other motorcycle that you actually ride and get better with. So for $1,000, this is a 6 out of 10 for me. This is a pretty decent little bike. Let's keep it moving. All right, up next we have to venture back into the land of the wretched here. This is a bit of a bummer. We have an 01 YZF600R. So this is not in fact a R6. Back in the early 2000s, Yamaha, for whatever reason, had a Super Sport R6 and the YZF600R. So this is the kind of standard upright 600 class bike that they made for a little bit, and you can tell here based on the big banana seat, the comfortable ergonomics, the simple forks that it has, it is not the super sport variant of the Yamaha R6. This is a simpler motorcycle that they sold on the showroom floor. So this is another case where a lot of these photos are poorly lit, a lot of them are not really showing you what's going on with this bike, and so that to me is already a bad sign. So this guy says, will need work. Not off to a good start there. This will be a great starter bike for someone who doesn't mind wrenching. I highly disagree. Selling because I don't have time to fix myself. It ran fine before the chain broke. Side engine cover broken, only 20 bucks online. Bike has no oil to start. You'll have a great bike with low miles that was well taken care of after some repair. These are so many red flags for me. I do not want anything to do with this bike. This sounds like a huge, huge headache. I'm getting flashbacks of the Hentai Hornet looking at this thing because it was similar setup to this. The guy was like, oh, it just needs a couple things here and there, blah, blah, blah. No, it's never just a few things here and there. So this guy says 1,500 bucks for this project. Again, for $1,000, you could have gotten that Nighthawk that was a much better project. So this is gonna be a 3 out of 10 for me as well. Let's keep it rolling. So following up on our YZF600R, we have an actual R6 here, or do we? What's going on with this one? It says Yamaha YZF R609, so it's an 09 R6, clean title for $1,200? Whoa, a clean R6 for 1,200 bucks? That's crazy. You'll never find something like this. Let's dig a little bit deeper. This guy says, I've owned this motorcycle for 5 years now, and it's been a dream. It's a clean title, low mile, quick, powerful machine that is always fun to ride around. Turn on the engine and the unmistakable rumble of a flat twin fills the space. And give it a little gas, and you'll know it's no joke. Now, for many of you who are watching this right now, you'll know that the R6 does not, in fact, have a flat twin. It has an inline 4. So how could someone who has owned this bike for 5 years say that the flat twin sound is unmistakable? This guy says no structural damage, looks and runs beautifully, always garaged, 3.824 mileage on it. So it has 3.8 miles on it. That's amazing. Have all original parts on the bike. OEM, it doesn't, as we can see very clearly here. It does not have all OEM parts. It's been a great bike for commuting, getting out on the roads on the weekend. Bike is in great condition overall. It's in perfect cosmetic paint. Service is performed regularly. Now, you don't want to call it, but this 100% looks like a stolen motorcycle to me. There's so many red flags in here that suggest that this is a stolen bike. This is not a good situation. I would definitely not go and check out this bike, as you might encounter someone very, very sketchy. There is just no way that someone is selling a clean 2009 R6 for $1,200. That price isn't correct. The flat twin thing is really weird and kind of funny, honestly. So definitely would stay away from something like this, and it's easy to spot stolen bikes if you look a little bit closer. Let's move on to our next motorcycle. So I thought this one was pretty neat. You guys know that I'm a bit of an adventure boy with my Ducati Scrambler Desert Sled. This is a 1989 Honda Transalp XL600V. So the Transalp was a relatively rare motorcycle. We didn't get too many of them here in America. But this is a really cool dual sport that that Honda made for a while there. And it's kind of a middleweight adventure class bike that could do some off-road stuff. You see the spoked wheels, the knobby tires, the kind of adventure stance, the luggage rack, that kind of stuff. And it's a really, really cool bike. This is kind of like a Tenere 700 before there was a Tenere 700. You see these in Europe quite often. When I was in London and France and a lot of other places last year, I saw a lot of these Transalps bopping around. They're very, very popular, very robust. There's actually a guy on YouTube who I can't remember his name right now, but he's actually doing a big trip from the bottom of Argentina all the way to the top of North America on a Transalp, which is pretty sweet. So this guy's just kind of going through, not really a whole lot here to write home about in terms of the description. 4250 is a little spicy for a bike from 1989. However, this thing is in really clean nick, and if you want a Transalp, this is honestly a pretty good deal right here. 37,500 miles on this is pretty respectable for the year and the fact of the type of motorcycle it was. These big touring kind of bikes are going to put on a lot of mileage. They're definitely probably seen some kind of cross-country tour or something like that. So something to keep in mind, but the Transalp is a pretty sweet little machine. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10 and keep it rolling. Now here we have a classic Cleveland situation. I was getting concerned that we were not going to find any strange or bizarre motorcycles, but here we have a Harley Davidson Street Glide trike conversion for 18 grand. If you want to find the weird trikes, if you want to find the bizarre built Harleys, Craigslist is your place to go. Let's take a closer look at some of these photos here. You got the classic skull paint jobs, airbrushed everywhere. You got the two flags at the back. And the most important thing I want to call to your attention is the fact that there are chrome skulls for the air cleaner and then also for the case cover right there on the engine. So if you look in close right there, you gotta represent the Skelly boys right there in the engine, because how are people gonna know that you are a certified badass unless you've got skulls all over your bike? Let's take a closer look here at this motorcycle. Here is the owner looking loud and proud with his airbrushed flame skulls on his fairing. You Harley boys make it too easy, I'm so sorry. And here he is, just beefed up, baby, beefed up on this Harley, absolutely chilling. I like that this guy's putting up photos of him out there enjoying the bike and riding it, because I think a lot of people get the low quality cell phone pictures in the garage with the low lighting. This guy's out there having fun on his bike, and you can't say anything about that. Now, this is a conversion from a Street Glide, so it's not the Tri-Glide from the factory, so he turned it. I love that we have this photo to look at here. Loud and proud, skeleton skull right there. Why do people do this? Why, God, why? Here's what appears to be the conversion element for the rear of it. That's the differential and the two shocks that are going to be put on the back. Don't know if he did it himself, but kind of neat. Totally torn apart right here. That is a nest of wires. That is absolutely crazy, but I guess these Harleys have a lot of electronics for all the radio and all the other stuff to go into them. They're basically cars at this point. So let's go through here in the description. He says 96 cubic inch with SE 255 cams. Now, 96 cubic inches seems like a pretty small engine for a tricycle, so it's probably pretty slow. 6-speed trans with reverse, 24,000 miles and less than 3,000 on trike conversion. A couple other specs here and there. 14-inch bars, braided steel cables, trailer hitch. You gotta tow with your trailer, of course. Oil cooler with thermostat controlled fans. Mechanical reverse gear works off your trans. Lumper, pass backrest, all kinds of stuff. Power commander. Over 45,000 invested, asking 18 grand OBO, or trade for a 5th gen Camaro SS. That is such an oddly specific thing. That is a real bummer if you've dropped 45 grand into a bike that you're barely gonna get 18 out of. You must have really loved it and really appreciated it and really enjoyed it, but that is a spicy meatball to swallow there. I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 10 for effort. I think it's quite cool that you went through and you did all this and you put the Skelly boys for me to see, but I can't in good conscience give you 18 grand for this bike. I just can't. Let's keep it rolling. Now this next one I had to highlight because it's one of the cleanest bikes that I've seen here on Craigslist, and it's just an awesome package overall. This is a legendary bike, the Honda RC51. So if you guys don't know, the RC51 was when Honda and Suzuki were making big twin super bikes. So this thing has a 1000cc twin cylinder engine, and it's just absolutely sublime to ride. Really well set up motorcycle, and if you know, then you know. The RC51 had a couple cool editions of it. It had the Nicky Hayden edition of it back when he won the 2006 World Championship. This is a very, very cool motorcycle, and it's getting harder and harder to find clean versions of them, and they are very nice. It's basically like Honda just went and made a Ducati sport bike without really telling anyone. So this guy says, amazing bike, must see. 2000 Honda RC51 RVT1000R. The RVT1000R is the moniker of the bike, and the RC51 is the shorthand that most people consider it by. Legendary handmade street legal factory Honda sport bike, extremely well maintained by an adult. Now, I only like it when my bikes are maintained by children personally, but that's okay, whatever floats your boat, you know? Very, very clean for its year. Tank is pristine. Now that is very neat. This is a 20-year-old motorcycle at this point, and I gotta say it is quite clean. It's got the sort of period correct Yoshimura on there, which is quite cool. 17,200 miles, adult ridden, amazing gearbox, best I've ever felt, must see and hear, brap, which I like. No joy rides, serious buyers only, cash only for out-of-state buyers. Feel free to ask any questions. Thank you. Yeah, RC51, such a cool bike. It's getting harder and harder to find them. They're very, very unique. I highly recommend you guys check out some videos about them because they sound awesome and they go great. So I'm going to give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Let's keep it rolling. So here we have a 94 Harley Fat Boy with some big ol' ape hangers on it, baby. You gotta stay loud and proud all the way out here. The exhaust pipes are also like basically Bosuzoku spec. They go all the way out to the rear and kind of slant up a little bit at the end, which we love to see. This is kind of an interesting bike, I will say. I think I've definitely seen worse versions of it. The huge fenders I'm not a big fan of, but some people, they like this style, you know? Is it for me? No, but some people, they think this is neat. I don't really think that this is a great option here, but for 6 grand, from what I understand about Harleys, that is smoking cheap. So in here he says, if I listed every part of this bike that has been replaced, my fingers would fall off from typing this ad. So we're off to a great start here, doesn't want to get into it. Says this motor was done by H&R Pro Street. It's an 89-inch stroker. I can give you details if you're interested. It's loud and it's got a lot of balls. I'm sure it's loud, but I doubt it has a lot of balls, my man. I'm sorry. The transmission is a polished Ultima 6-speed with a biker shift pull, shotgun shock, air ride with thumb controls and remote. At this point, Harley boys can just throw words in the descriptions and I'll just believe whatever they're saying. They could be like, smokin', screamin', eagle, shifter, paw, footrest, bang, shifter rang that I got in 2007. I could be like, yeah, sure, whatever. LED lights, just about every chrome is on there. Super rare emblems, comes with detachable driver's backrest, blah, blah, blah. Must make me a reasonable offer. We'll consider trade of a nice fishing boat, RV, or something else. Now, if you can snag an RV for $6 that you're asking for this Harley, if you can get someone to trade a Harley Fat Boy for an RV, you let me know and I want to talk to you because I'm actually in the market for a toy hauler, and if you're that capable of finagling a deal like that, I'd love to speak with you. The 94 Harley Fat Boy here with the giant ape hangers. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 and keep it rolling. Now this one I wanted to talk about just specifically for the Royal Enfield simps out there who have been attacking me in the comment sections, very viciously attacking me in the comment section. This is a 2019 brand spanking new Royal Enfield, and guess what? They've reduced the price to $5 because it's sitting on the showroom floors and nobody's buying it. Who would have thought that the Royal Enfield Interceptor isn't a well-selling motorcycle here in America? Oh, but it's so good, Yami. Oh, it's such a good bike. Oh, you have to ride it. You have to talk about it, touch it. It's not a bike, it's a feeling. Get out of here with that, dude. They can't move these bikes. They just can't. Because guess what? Someone looks at a Bonneville and they're like, oh, that's the real bike that I want. I'm sorry, Royal Enfield simps. I'm sorry that the world has done this to you and that you've chosen the wrong bike. But here it is, sitting on dealership floors, not moving, patiently waiting a stupid buyer to come and get it. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna give it a 0 out of 10 and keep it rolling. Now up next we have the Goliath of motorcycles, a 2006 Cabernet Red Goldwing Hannigan. Now, this is for the type of motorcyclist who says, you know what, a Goldwing simply isn't enough, I need more. And when I say more, I mean more, more, more. So the Goldwing is here, loud and proud, 3-cylinder contraption that it is. I don't know if this is a modified version of a Goldwing or if someone actually bought this off a dealership floor. I have to imagine that someone has modified the Goldwing because I'm pretty sure Honda wouldn't do this. So it looks like they have several different models of Goldwing trikes like this. Now again, trike, this is, when you sit down and think about it, this is a 6-cylinder, 3-wheeled vehicle that weighs well over 1,000 pounds. Is that a motorcycle at that point? Does it actually count as a bike? I kind of don't really think that it does. So they've got several models of these Goldwings available. It looks like this is a company that is making them. I do love that it says Cabernet Red, deep wine color on this Goldwing as you will peruse down the main street of your town, hit up the local wine store, the liquor store, what have you, you know, maybe make a mixed drink in your cup holder as you take off and ride along the coast on your Cabernet Red 3-wheeled Goldwing, and you will look very, very, very cool, and everyone will love you and want to pat you on the head very beautifully. They want 20 grand for this thing. I'm gonna say no, and I'm gonna keep it moving. Last but not least here, we have a 2012 Triumph Daytona 675R. Beautiful example of the gold and black edition of the first generation 675. This is the very first iteration of the triple cylinder sport bike that is beloved by Triumph simps such as myself. This is not the R version, so it doesn't have the Öhlins and the cool quick shifter and all that kind of stuff. This is the base standard model, but these bikes are pretty good. Looking at this tire pattern here, this person has never taken this bike to the track and hardly ever gotten it over on the side of the tire, so you are getting a bike that is brand new and barely used. So the only issue that first generation Triumphs have, or these Daytonas have, is that they are prone to quite a few electrical gremlins and problems. Many first generation Daytona 675 owners have reported some problems with these bikes, and so that is not a great thing, but still an awesome platform to rip around town with or to compete and race with or do track days with. Still an awesome motorcycle. So they want $6,500 for it, which is way too much money in my opinion for 4,800 miles on the clock for an 8-year-old Daytona. That's second generation Daytona money nowadays. You should not pay more than about $5 for a 2012 Daytona. So this guy says, test drives with cash in hand and motorcycle endorsement only, no exception, has been adult owned, only this amount of mileage, bike is not for novices and will not be sold to a beginner. Again, this is not a beginner bike and is a true rarity of a find for its next discerning owner. This next discerning owner. Why are Euro simps like this? I hope that I don't speak like this about my own bike, but sometimes I do catch myself talking like this. A discerning owner, a je ne sais quoi of the triple cylinder sound, and oh, blah, 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 blah. Stop it, get some help. This bike is too expensive for what it is, and I would give you no more than $5 for it. And that's about it. That's gonna do it for today's episode of It Came From Craigslist. Thanks so much for checking it out, guys. I truly do appreciate it. Smash that subscribe button. Let me know if you wanna see more Craigslist episodes like this. I'll catch you in the next one. See you later. So my sweet little squid, this video is actually over, but lucky for you, click on this one right here. You can keep watching your sweet Papa Yam, delivering you the motorcycle content you've come to know and love. Don't worry, I'll wait. I'll be here waiting for you. You're gonna click on that video.